Short-lived TV shows are fascinating, aren't they? You see something that lasts for maybe 7 episodes at the worst case, either forgotten about or considered one of the worst things to ever exist. Looking at you, Alan Gregory.
Wow.
But today, we're gonna take a look at one of the very few shows that was cancelled after episode 1. That being the most controversial reality show of all time, Who's Your Daddy?, created by Fox. Because all good things come from Fox.
We've just got to accept the fact that Fox has to make room for terrific shows like Dark Angel, Titus, Undeclared, and Who's Your Daddy?
If you haven't heard the tale of this interesting little experiment, well, let me tell you all about it. This is the complete history of Fox's Who's Your Daddy?, the worst reality show of all time. Our tale starts off, as many good ones tend to, at the turn of the century. By this point, reality TV was all the rage, thanks in large part to successful series like Survivor and The Bachelor. People would like them because they would get attached to the quote-unquote characters on screen, and the networks liked them even more because they were cheap to make and easy to market with all of their manufactured drama, which they could advertise as real.
Or Survivor's most notorious liar, Johnny Rotten.
I'm the king of men and they're women.
He's an ass.
One network in particular fully embraced this craze and decided to go a little too far with it. Fox has always known for airing some shocking and provocative material. I mean, come on, its most successful show of all time, The Simpsons, was target number 1 when it came to parents' watchdog groups for a little while. So it seems like Fox decided to consistently fall back on that in order to get people's attention.
To make American families a lot more like the Waltons and a lot less like the Simpsons.
With many of Fox's reality shows, TV critic Brian Lowry has pointed out that there are consistent themes throughout the years.
More than anyone, Fox has tested the boundaries of this idea, putting on programs designed to spur outrage before anyone sees them.
These shows would consist of the likes of The Swan, where quote-unquote ugly people will get a full makeover and then would be judged by a panel of judges who would continue to rip their appearance to shreds.
You are the only swan in the program that has gained weight since you got here.
Or how's about The Littlest Groom, where, ha-ha, a little person tries to find love. Isn't that just hilarious?
As the competition heats up, love becomes very complicated when Glenn is forced to choose between average-sized women and little women.
Now, I think it's pretty clear what Fox is trying to do here. They're trying to incite outrage or public backlash in order to get people to pay attention. And at first, this would work.
I've become a more confident, comfortable person.
But after a while, people started to catch on to what Fox was doing.
It's very important to have realistic expectations as to what plastic surgery can and cannot do for you.
Those previous shows I mentioned, they ended up becoming bombs because of shock fatigue. So Fox had two options. They could either abandon this practice altogether and do what all the other networks were doing, or they could double down. Find something not just controversial, but something so controversial that nobody could escape the knowledge of the show. But how much bigger could they go from there? Well, the person to answer that question would be the show's executive producer, Kevin Healy. He came up with the concept of a show called Reunited. It would basically be a familial, condensed version of The Bachelor. Here, somebody who was adopted at birth would try to guess who their father was amongst a panel of 7 actors, and one person being their real father. But there's a catch. If the person guesses right, they are not only reunited with their biological father, but they also win $100,000. However, if the other dad gets picked and not the real dad, whoever was able to deceive the adopted person gets the $100,000 instead. But hey, the person still gets to meet their father at the end of the day, so I guess everybody wins?
I ask myself that every day. I'm like, why are you doing this?
And if you think that sounds strange, it does. That kinda goes without saying. But Fox knew it too. So much so that in order to get people to actually come on Who's Your Daddy, for the most part, they had to be tricked. With the exception of the adopted person, who, from what I can gather, was pretty much entirely informed as to what Who's Your Daddy would become.
My parents are really great parents.
Everybody else was not. In preparation for this video, we had an exclusive interview with the private investigator for Reunited/Who's Your Daddy, who has decided to remain nameless for, well, obvious reasons. He confirmed that Fox was not very clear about what the show would be when they first approached him.
A gorgeous mansion, a beautiful woman, and 8 charming men. You think you've seen it before.
I think you may be my dad.
You see, he'd been working for a while to reunite adopted people with their families, so Fox sought him out, telling him that they were going to have an entire show based around this. Anything about the prize money, or the competition, or the deception, that was all left out. According to the private investigator, if he actually knew what this show was, he never would have signed on. Basically, they told him that he would be in charge of reuniting 13 people with their families, and if the show was successful, possibly even more. The series composer, Brad Siegel, was interested because he himself was adopted and felt emotionally attached to the concept, but after he found out what it really was, it was too late. As for the contestants, this is where the biggest bit of deception lies. John Robbins, who played one of the fake fathers in the very first episode, opened up about his experience a few years back. In his own words, "It was Fox. Doesn't that explain everything? When we auditioned, they told us it would be a game show like the 50s What's My Line? But when everybody was told what the show would really be, they all decided to just roll with it."
Why are you doing this?
It's Hollywood, baby. This is the kind of thing they do. So yes, everybody involved consented, but they were still lured in under false pretenses, so I guess make of that what you will. By this point, it was July 2004. The Who's Your Daddy project was well underway, albeit in total secrecy, at least when it came to the general public. In the world of television insiders, though, they knew what was going on. That would all change, though, when NBC chief Jeff Zucker would let the public know about Reunited for the very first time. In an interview, Zucker was talking about how many of Fox's shows that were coming out this year were ripoffs of NBC's, specifically drawing comparisons between The Next Great Champ and The Contender. But then the gloves came off, and he got to discussing some of Fox's original concepts, mentioning that there would be a show where somebody who was adopted at birth would try to find their dad amongst a panel of actors trying to deceive the person for money. People didn't really pay this announcement much mind. This could be just some bluster cooked up by NBC or a project that Fox was maybe idly considering. There was a little bit of backlash, sure, but nothing that strong just yet. Now let's skip a little ahead to September of 2004, where Red Sox player Pedro Martinez would utter the phrase,
"Call the Yankees my daddies."
This thing would become a bit of a cultural sensation. So Fox, deciding to capitalize on its popularity, decided just a couple weeks later to rename Reunited to Who's Your Daddy? And now, it was official. The world knew about the project. In the coming months, Fox would promote this thing like crazy, talking about how it would be an emotional and dramatic experience for not just the people involved, but anyone who had the strength to watch it.
Your dad is behind that door.
Who's your daddy?
Naturally, the reaction was exactly what Fox wanted. People were enraged. Word of mouth began to spread, with people getting angrier and angrier with each passing day. Eventually, word about Who's Your Daddy would reach several adoption organizations who would immediately take action. Deborah Capone, an adoption rights activist and an adopted mother to a 5-year-old girl, started a letter-writing campaign to get Fox to take Who's Your Daddy off the air. Apparently, Fox received over 5,000 messages in just 1 week. Then there was the Evan P. Donaldson Adoption Institute, which released the following statement. It takes a deeply personal and important experience and turns it into a money-grabbing game show. Even though this was exactly what Fox wanted, they realized that their idea worked just a little too well. They wanted people to be upset, sure, but not this upset. Not so upset that they wanted the show removed and having all their hard work wasted. Fox themselves remained silent, but they had other people do their dirty work to clean up the mess. such as the aforementioned private investigator who was forced to go on a radio program and defend Who's Your Daddy. Kevin Healy also decided to defend the show, saying this: "Knowing what we did and the lives that we changed for the positive, I was very surprised. I expected there to be a reaction to the title, but I felt people would watch it and then make their own decisions." Yeah, that's something that was going to happen. And then another executive producer, Scott Halleck, said this: "You might get the impression from the title that it is somehow salacious or exploitive, but nothing could be further from the truth. Keep that in mind as we go further along here." The promotion for Who's Your Daddy was continuing on, now being advertised as a one-off special. Fox now only had plans to air the pilot episode, and presumably nothing else. There are many theories swirling around as to why this was the case, but we'll touch on those towards the end. In late December, the Raleigh, North Carolina Fox affiliate, WRAZ, announced that they would not air Who's Your Daddy, but would instead air an adoption documentary called I Have Roots and Branches, Personal Reflections on Adoption, in protest for what Fox was doing.
Adoption creates forever families, surrounded by the families they know and love.
But even with this news, Fox kept going. By this point, Fox was practically begging people to give Who's Your Daddy a chance. Mike Darnell, the head of Fox's reality department, had to come out and say this: "It's the most emotional show we've ever put on the air. I guarantee you, if you have any heart, you'll be bawling at the end of the show. When the contestant ends up eliminating her real father, she feels terrible." By the way, that doesn't happen in this single episode that aired, so that's kind of false advertising there, Mike. And then, it happened. On January 3rd, 2005, people officially came face to face with the dreaded Who's Your Daddy. What viewers ended up seeing was not this emotional, sentimental thing that Fox wanted everybody to believe existed. Instead, people were basically greeted to a Bachelor knockoff, albeit one with even more warped and twisted values.
There's no greater bond than that between a parent and child. 8 men. One of them is her father.
I'm your dad.
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 I'm your dad. I'm your dad.
Who's Your Daddy?
Here's how the game is played. Nobody knows who the real dad is, except for the dad himself.
None of the other men have any idea who your father is. In fact, I don't even know.
So all of the other actors have to compete with each other, knowing that somewhere in this group that holds the one definitive happy ending. So they have to just stop caring and keep the eyes on the prize. The adopted person of the week will talk with the dads a bit, engage in certain challenges, and would scan their every movement, behavior, and word to see if there are any clues as to who the dad really is.
From Peter and Ray, I got the least amount of feeling. He looks too young. I don't remember his name.
I don't think that I have ever focused on something so much in my entire life.
At the end of every challenge and interaction, there would be a full-on rose ceremony where the person will say to each dad, "I think you are," or "I think you are not my father." If they guess right, then great, on to the next round. If they guess wrong and they end up eliminating their real father, the prize money goes down, but only for the participant.
If you pick incorrectly, then it goes from $100,000 down to $75,000. Thanks. Yeah, it's always a glitch.
So yes, whoever the dad is, they end up getting saved, presumably without the person finding out who they are, and then the game just keeps going. In order to prevent the series from being too cruel, Fox manufactured the rule so that, no matter what, there will always be a reunion, even if the person guesses wrong right out of the gate. The final challenge would usually be something along the lines of having the participant meet with the one fake dad remaining and the real dad one-on-one, talking about their life, their past, their bond, etc. And if I can go off script for just a second, this is easily the most disgusting part of the entire thing.
TJ, my real name is John Robbins, and I wish the two of you the best in the future that you have together.
Now that I know who the dad is, the part with the dad and the daughter, yeah, that's sweet.
I know it's not you, but it's what I've had in my mind all these years.
You are part of this family as well.
But the part with the actor trying to put on a soap opera-worthy performance?
Well, you found me.
I have no words. Except shame on you. Once there are only 2 people left and that sweet and or disturbing conversation takes place, the person is led to a door that has the real father silhouetted, and they announce who they think is their real father, and let's hope they're right. If not, it's gonna get really awkward. Then there's a big family reunion, the real dad's true name is revealed, maybe some other stuff after that. It's basically the only good part of the show / special. But am I alone in this? Did everybody else agree with me? No, they seem to think it was all bad. Who's Your Daddy was a bomb. In its time slot, it ranked a distant 4th. It basically ended up the same way as Heil Honey I'm Home. Remember when we covered that? Fox did the same exact thing, banking on a highly controversial subject in order to drum up interest, and while yes it did exactly that, the interest didn't translate into viewership numbers, thereby making the show a failure. Now, as I mentioned before, Fox advertised Who's Your Daddy as a one-off special, and sure enough, on all the internet forums archived from back in the day, everyone's calling it just a special. So, what happened? There are a couple theories as to why Fox only aired Who's Your Daddy Episode 1, including them realizing that this was a bad idea and deciding to air something for their efforts. Or maybe that Fox was contractually obligated to at least air part of the production. But if you ask me, I think this was something of a setup. Fox would air Episode 1 as a one-off special. That way they could say, alright, sure, yeah, this is just a little experiment we're trying, we'll see how it goes. And if it turned out to be a big hit, cashing in on all those sweet controversy bucks, then they could air the rest of the episodes as a spin-off of sorts, and then if those hold up, maybe they could keep on going, making more episodes of Who's Your Daddy. But no, that didn't end up working. Who's Your Daddy would not see the light of day again until Father's Day of 2005, where Fox quietly released the remaining episodes of the show on their now defunct Fox Reality Network, basically just trying to get rid of them all as soon as possible. And then after that, that was the...
There's no greater bond. 8 women. One of them is her mother.
I'm your mom. 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 This is so weird.
Who's your mommy?
Why are you doing this?
Nobody knows why Fox decided to do this. And I, for one, can't fathom why either. Now, from what I can gather, for the single press release that was released for Who's Your Mommy, this was legitimately intended to be just a 2-episode special. We have the 2 episodes here at Media Mementos, and yeah, there's something. Something weird, though, is that Who's Your Mommy is technically not a spin-off. Fox copyrighted both shows on October 1st, 2004, so they always knew they were going to go this route with these 2 shows, but for whatever reason, they decided to not even acknowledge Who's Your Mommy on their main network and buried it on one of their less viewed channels. Were they really this sure that the show would work? Going back to those controversial shows that I mentioned before, like The Littlest Groom or The Swan, those didn't pan out. Fox had no reason to believe that yet another button-pushing series would be a success. I don't know, I guess they got a little too trigger-happy, or wanted to get the most out of their investment?
I don't know why she's so angry.
Rachel, just shut up, please. I can't stand to hear your voice anymore.
But I think you can tell that it didn't quite pay off. And it never would have either. Judging by what we have from Who's Your Mommy, this perfectly encapsulates everything that could have and presumably did go wrong with Who's Your Daddy. We have people picking the wrong parent.
Carol. Oh. I gave it a 50-50 shot.
It's a game, okay?
We have the contestant visibly being uncomfortable with the situation.
I don't like that it says mom.
I wanted my biological mother to feel pain.
They all rehearse these questions in their head. Mom instead of birth mom?
It was clear that Jennifer was just too bitter.
And we have some even sicker twists and turns from the fake parents.
I have a specific question for you. Why do you think I should believe you, that you're my birth mom?
Do you think I'm sitting here because I want to trick you?
There is money involved.
My name is Michelle Dalcine.
Fox should have considered themselves lucky. If more than one episode of Who's Your Daddy would have aired, that would have meant big, big trouble. Media outrage is a pretty powerful thing. We've already covered that with the likes of Heil Honey, I'm Home and Poketown, but regardless as to your opinions on those shows, they were entirely fictional. The stuff presented in Who's Your Mommy/Daddy, that's all real and really gross. Thankfully though, after this, Fox decided to scrub their hands of Who's Your Daddy and just stick with what they do best. Regular old, semi-realistic reality shows with the occasional "what?" title thrown in just to catch people's attention. To this day, Who's Your Daddy, and I guess by extension, Who's Your Mommy to those who know that it exists, is often considered one of the worst things to ever hit TV. And if you ask me, someone who comes from a heavily adopting family who holds these values very closely, yeah, no, I don't like it. When I was watching it for the first time, I just kept muttering, this is sick. The only parts that save it are, again, the part where the daughter talks with the dad at the final 2 portion, but only in hindsight, and that reunion at the end, which admittedly did make me feel a certain something. But the rest, yeah, there are very few times where I'd say that media legitimately warrants this kind of outrage, but this is just disgusting. Reality TV in general has often been accused of pushing bad morals on society or whatever, and yeah, we can debate that for as long as we'd want, but I think we can all unite in saying that this was bad. Though some good did come from it. As the private investigator has pointed out, the show did do some good work. It reunited people with their estranged families. So, was it all worth it in the end? I don't know, I'm legitimately asking, do you think it was worth it? Do you think they could have gone about it in a different way? Who's to say? All we can say though is that this is what Fox decided to do for them, and while yes, they did get a happy family out of it, at least I hope, they still had to be part of what is the worst reality show of all time.
So I'm not looking forward to it at all.
Well, folks, thanks for watching the video. What'd you guys think? Wasn't that a lot? That was a lot. I know it was. Wow. Yeah, so this video was actually going to come out about a year ago, but we decided to postpone it for a while. It's a long, complicated process. We got in touch with some of the staff members, and now we made this. And I hope you liked it. I think this is the first time I've done a non-Patreon video since, 2023? It's sure been a while. Anyways, that was kind of a roundabout way of doing something, I guess. Comment below and let me know because I'm always excited to hear what you guys have to say. Sometimes I wish I wrote a script for these end parts, but they're more fun this way. Anyways, now it's time to thank our wonderful Patreon people, starting with our Masters of Fate. Brian Desero, Chan 11, Drew the Stew, Kev Messick, Platinum Bass, Sakamoto, Quiet Chap, Ravioli Supremo, Ryan Williams, Timey, Toko Blahuvian, and Woody Woo. And now for our executive producers, Albert Robinson, Blackjack, H.R. Hoffman, Jackie Lopez, Kurt Bruenning, Leaf Storm, Unkale, Vanilla the Rabbit 98, and who else but Zane. If you too would like your name read at the end of every Media Mementos video, or if you'd like your idea for a Media Mementos video to come to life, then why not consider donating to the Patreon? There's a link in the description below for you to check out. Also, there's a link to the Media Mementos Twitter and Discord server, so stop on by and say hello. Alright folks, thanks for watching the video, and I'll see you guys next time.